Not very often we get a chance to talk with our Congressman, Mark Sanford, home very briefly, back to D.C. You've been talking health care an awful lot with a lot of people. You voted for the House side of health care to keep it moving more than anything,
Correct.
I think was what you said at the time. The Senate has, although it's probably changed by the time this airs, the Senate is working on it. Is the Senate's bill something you can support, or do you see some more changes that still need to be made?
We don't have a Senate bill at this point, so it's literally completely in motion at this point. You have a couple of different iterations. You know, Senator Cruz has a version. There are other versions out there of what it might be, but there's not consensus yet. And what I think we should all rejoice at, and people are getting very frustrated, like, just get something done. We should rejoice in our institutions. I know this sounds crazy, but we have a system that is designed to go slow. It's designed to guard against revolutionary change, because our founding fathers didn't want a king or a queen saying, this is the way we're going to do it. They wanted all of us to buy in, and through representation in the House and representation in the Senate, you'd come together, you'd create a law, and then the president would sign it or not sign it. And it's slow, it's cumbersome, it's awkward. But the fact that it's stalled in the Senate is basically the people's way of saying it ain't there yet. And I can walk into a Mexican restaurant here in Hilton Head and hear the same thing with people basically conflicted about what are we going to do, not going to do. Again, we haven't come together as Americans yet on what our healthcare system should look like in the individual marketplace. People are pretty happy with group insurance, they're pretty happy with Medicare, they're in some cases happy with Medicaid, depending on which state you live in. They're not happy with the individual marketplace, and rightfully so. In some cases, it left people, facing crazy, huge, health insurance bills that could bankrupt them and their family and destroy every dream that they had for life. In other cases, just the cost of the premium was weighing them down. And so we're going to get there, but we should all take a breath and say the system is working if, in fact, it's pausing. Doesn't mean it's broken. It means it's saying, we need to get it better.
Are you willing, you've been fairly strident in some of your opinions on different subjects, are you willing to make a deal here to take half a loaf, 2/3 of a loaf, 3/4 of a loaf, and not get everything you want out of the
well, it's
healthcare
nothing
bill?
that I want, and it's at the end of the day what we all want. And one of the things I consistently hear, I've heard consistently from folks saying we want to leave portions of what we came to enjoy with the Affordable Care Act. And I said, you already won. I mean, baked into the cake is staying on your parents' plan to the age of 26. It was not there until the Affordable Care Act came along. Baked into the cake is this notion of differently treating pre-existing conditions than used to be the case. That's baked into the cake. What's not baked into the cake is affecting people's premiums. This lady that came to the hardware store over in Bluffton, she said, look, we've cut out all the other elements of our life. We used to do, this was going to be our glory years. We retired to Sun City. I'm not yet 65. I don't qualify for Medicare. I got 4 years to go, and we've cut everything else out. We don't know what to do. And so I would say essential to me is something that actually goes to impact premiums of people, whether they're self-employed, or they're retired and just struggling, in between, retirement and age 65, that helps them with premiums. I think that's going to be an important variable for me in determining whether I vote yes or no on whatever might come next.
On the budget, you're on the budget committee. What's the priority list of where we have to get the thing done, to get it done, between budget, between debt reduction, between tax reform, with all of those issues still on the table? Where do we have to take? What's got to come first, and then what's got to come second?
I would say the budget ought to come first in the budget. But oddly enough, for many people, it doesn't. It's saying we don't care what it looks like as long as it gets us to tax reform. And I think that's putting the cart before the horse. I think that given the dire nature of our budget problem and what it means for every program that we might enjoy or appreciate that comes out of government, what it means for national defense, what it means for a whole host of federal functions, if we don't begin to get our budget mess right, and it is a mess, we're going to have much bigger problems down the road. So for me, having numbers that actually balance over a 10-year window are very, very important. And an additional benefit in this year would be it leads us to tax reform, but that's an additional benefit as opposed to the driver.
Congressman, thanks so much for the
Yes, sir.
time. Good luck to you.
Pleasure.
All
Thank
right.
you.